Hello, everybody. This is Kelly Beard of KarmicTools.com, and this is a special bonus audio on the Taurus, Scorpio eclipses and nodes that we're dealing with right now from 21 to 23. Very special. Last time it happened was 2012 to 2014 when we had a Scorpio North Node. Right now we have a Taurus North Node. Go back a complete cycle to 2002 to 2005. That is the cycle we're just finishing now. 2002 to 2005 was the last time we had a Taurus North Node. And I always go back one more. The 1993 to 95 was the Scorpio North Node. So these years are all related. Give you two sets so that you have a good frame of reference for those of us old enough to track back, knowing that the North Node is always the focus and the direction that is most supported, while the South Node is usually shadow material that we need to release or energies that have run their course in this 20-year span, okay? So we are very much in a similar zone, 21 to 23, as we were in 2002 to 05. How many of you were alive, grown enough to remember the world after September 11th? Well, here we are again after a huge awakening and cracking open of social collective things that affect us as individuals. And here we are again, letting the dust settle and trying to figure out how to be embodied again, how to have proper values and priorities, make good decisions, and build something to last when some people don't even believe we have a future to build for. So we can't give in to that fear and delusion. Earth is a regenerating planet. If we back off, like we found out those first couple of weeks of COVID, did we not? When the planes stopped flying and the ships stopped going through and everybody took a pause for the cause, Earth immediately rebounded. It wasn't months later. It was immediate. So all we have to think about now is how much can we simplify our individual lives and do this a better way with a Taurus focus of renewal of life. Okay, Scorpio is the death side, Taurus is the life side. We are cultivating life and vitality. And think about it. Earth has its natural seasonal cycles of die-off, but otherwise is nothing but life. The minute we stop blocking her, she just lives on. It's amazing. So we are made in the image of our Creator. We are also regenerative creatures. We also thrive when we focus on life instead of death. Not to the neglect of death, not to where we say it doesn't exist and we don't even have to think about it. That's nonsense too, because death is part of the life process. And just like we're having this new beginning of a new garden that we can cultivate in this 2-year period of a life-focused rather than death-focused culture, we can do this. We can reset this right now. The truth is that at every new beginning is an ending, though. So we have to clear out the old. If any of you have gotten your Astro Cycles reading with me, then you know I've told you once you get in the last quarter of a 20-year North Node cycle, that's your life path and direction, you feel the new direction bubbling, but you can't really make any moves. And then once you start that new direction, it's still so new that you're learning in the first 5 years. So we're kicking off a 20-year cycle right now that is going to take 5 years to pretty much anchor and ground. Meantime, we have energy of the Taurus Scorpio only for about 18 months. The other way to look at Taurus Scorpio energy is acquiring and releasing and purifying, right? So, of course, Taurus likes to acquire. Scorpio likes to purify and distill back to essence. So that's the other kind of push-pull we have with these years that I mentioned. So 2012 to 2014, going back to 93 to 95, that was a Scorpio cycle. And so there was probably some emphasis on renewal and death, rebirth, and transformation, and your own power as an individual. All of that could have come up in those years to be reset. And now we're in the Taurus side of things where it's cultivating those values and choices of what you're going to really dedicate your resources of time, energy, and money to. So these are the things that come up during those years every single time. And it's about every 10 years, in this 20-year cycle, we get to make new choices. The other thing that happens with Taurus Scorpio is it automatically affects your Leo Aquarius. So again, many of you have probably heard this already, but I'm going to repeat it anyway because it's good for us to think about how they are 4 different kinds of self-worth and self-value that go into those energies and lessons. Taurus is the self-love and self-value that believes in the basic comforts of life and a personal security and, food and shelter, the basics, really, really important. Then Scorpio is that element of power. A lot of people walk around here thinking that all power is outside of themselves. Feeling powerless is not a good way to walk through life because we are very powerful creatures. And at the same time, if no one teaches you how to use that power or how to direct it on your own behalf, then it's tricky to understand how it works. And a lot of times we have to learn through trial and error with our Scorpio departments and try our best not to create more karma in the process. But that's what happens when we're not clear about our power and how we're channeling it. Leo's that self-love and self-worth of your authentic self that just knows that you, the individual, is enough as is. You have that basic self-love of I know who I am and I know that I belong here. That I'm not special, but I belong here. I'm still unique. And the Aquarius self-love comes into play with our unique contributions. Speaking of unique, it's another side of that. And some people really don't feel like they have a unique contribution, so they go along to get along and follow the trodden path. And that's okay, because there are other trailblazers out there who do believe they have a different path and something unique to contribute. And a lot of times Aquarius is strong in their charts. So a regular way that I learned to play with that was for me being an astrologer, right? There's a million astrologers out there doing it for free. Why would anyone pay me? I had to work really hard to find my own unique perspective in a sea of voices, right? That's a lot. But I think I found it. I like cycles and patterns, and I still have a following. So apparently you all like to hear what I have to say about these things. That perspective is a unique perspective, So that is something that, like anyone, struggled with my own self-love and self-esteem and self-value along the way, growing and cultivating my own truth and story. But that played a big part, was just the basic components of self-love and self-care. So I think that's going to come up for everyone on some way, on some level. And one of those departments getting triggered is going to be more intense for some and less intense for others. Like I said, if you have Leo, Aquarius, and Taurus, Scorpio activated, that means if you have any planets in any of those signs, these nodes and eclipses are triggering change and a little bit of a renewal in those departments. The challenge is to remember that we're doing our new beginning in Taurus, which means we have to integrate our Scorpio to get that whole new beginning off the ground. But then our Leo Aquarius departments have to grow out of comfort zone into new territory, which means change, decisions, choices that may feel a little bit like they're being imposed on you, but that's not true. You want this new beginning. You want this renewal of life and vitality. You want to value earth and life, real life again. So this is what we're resetting. We're reconnecting to the earth in a new way. We're going to talk about the extra planets that interact with the nodes over the next year or so, at least for 22 for sure, because this is a powerful alignment bringing in some powerful new beginnings. And beyond that, I did go doing a little digging in those old cycles. I ran them all. I ran all 4 of those to see what the other planets were doing and if they interacted with the nodes, and check it out. During our last go-round, 2012 to 2014, when it was a Scorpio North node, it initiated with Saturn. That was 2013. That was September 16th, 2013. There was this huge reset of our reality and our path and direction. And in Scorpio means our connection to our own power to create and cultivate life. It was huge. It was a huge reset. Then you go back the whole cycle back to the 93 to 95 one, when another Scorpio node. Pluto was still in Scorpio at the very end, 28 degrees. Jupiter was in Scorpio and hit it at 15 degrees. So we had a reset in our most powerful sign, which is Scorpio. It's like we said, it's the energy of creation. It's the strongest power that we humans have a connection to, would be our sexuality and our ability to create life. Right? That is the ultimate power. We had a huge reset in 94 of the truth and story, a new 12-year cycle, new 20-year cycle, and Pluto, a new 250-year cycle in its home sign of Scorpio, like its most powerful place. That's a lot of rebirth. That's a lot of 0 point of possibilities. That's a lot of purification that's been going on ever since, right? So all that Scorpio energy begs the question, what linked up with Taurus? Well, of course, we have Uranus there. So this kind of tells me, in my little crazy, I think, geometric brain over here, is that we reset our connection to source and power and wisdom just so that we could come forward now and liberate ourselves in a physical, literal way. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these activations kind of a little bit one by one, but then I want to go through the energies of what it means to deal with the Taurus new moon and full moon and the Scorpio new moon and full moon, because we're going to have both. We're going to have eclipses in both, going both ways for new beginnings and for endings. So I want to go through it a little bit so that you know the energy. You don't have to learn the astrological language to mess with Kelly. Let me just tell you. I'm going to tell you about the energy and how to navigate it and what kind of cycles you're kicking off, which at this point, the North Node is another 20-year cycle that'll have a 10-year midpoint where we can check in and maybe do some course corrections. But it's a pretty big cycle. And kicking off in Taurus, I wanted to stick to the big boys of Jupiter, Saturn on out, right? But this year is special with Venus and Mars in that the beginning of 2022, we're completing a Venus retrograde, and by the end of 2022, we'll be going into a Mars retrograde. So they're kind of bookending the year of 2022 in terms of resetting our feminine first and then our masculine. Now, what's deep about that reset is that last cycle, which would have been early 2020 for Venus, retrograded in Gemini. And now this year, 2 years later, Mars is going to retrograde in Gemini. So see how they kind of tag teaming each other, waking up our consciousness to our values first, then we can make better choices and decisions. So this rewiring of the brain and the thinking and the ideas, thoughts and concepts is going to be even deeper and more important for us to navigate consciously. So we're going to have some initiations, which are the most important thing. Those are conjunctions. They're the main ones where we can set some intentions and do some prayer work around the truth and story we want to tell, the radically new level of consciousness that we're awakening right now. And because Uranus is in Taurus, we need to embody it on some level. It cannot just be a thought or a concept. It's important that we wire that in. So I went ahead and added Venus and Mars into our equation for this North Node talk. But let's start with some dates because I want to give you good prayer days and focuses for those prayers that you can do along the way. Starting with, now I'm recording this on the 21st of February, 2022. So we're already past Jupiter connecting with Uranus February 17th, just a couple days ago. So you can definitely check my forecast for that week for the details on that connection. But I talk about it there too, how this is a precursor to them linking up in a conjunction come 2024. So I know that's a big, 2 years away, so we don't really dig too deep into that. But it's still really interesting to look at it like the activations happening in February are preparing us for a bigger process coming down the road. So for our purposes here with the North Node in Taurus, focusing on that path. Now, for those of you that live with a North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, or vice versa, where your North Node is in Scorpio or your South Node is in Taurus, either way, this is personal. That goes for Leo and Aquarius as well. Because if you have a Leo Aquarius North and South Nodes axis going on for yourself, then this year is going to engage that directly. That's one of your testing periods. It's one of your pivot points on your own path. So it's affecting all four signs, even though the new beginning is happening in Taurus. So here we are with Jupiter in Pisces. April 7th, it's going to sextile the North Node. That's an opportunity for some wisdom, for imagination, for claiming a new vision that you want to live in your body, in your day-to-day, everyday environment existence. That's what we're expanding and dreaming anew because of the cracking open we had with home and work getting totally recalibrated over the last 2 years. Everyone's doing home and work a completely different way, whether they wanted to or not, okay? So as long as we already had that reset, now what? How do we rebuild? We lost a lot. And so What are we throwing up in its place? And, the universe abhors a vacuum. Anytime we have a clearing or a release like that, something else is going to come on in. Let's do that consciously. So Jupiter is benevolent. It's the blessings. It's expansion, hopefully, of good things. If you have a bunch of drama, it's going to expand that too. So let's cut down on the things you do not want bigger, especially in your Pisces department where Jupiter is initiating a whole new 12-year cycle. That's a very big deal. That's my home base. That rules my 4th house of where I lay my head. That's a big 12-year cycle to care about. So this sextile is an opportunity. So for the prayer day of April 7th, you want to be praying on your life story and your belief systems and what you believe to be true or possible for your own life path and direction that has been shifted because of social collective changes in the last 2 years. How can we do that consciously? That's Jupiter, expansion, all good things, lots of fun and opportunity there. Early April, later in April, April 25th, Saturn in Aquarius is going to square off with North Node in Taurus. So now we come to an opportunity for how do we make that big vision work on the ground in real time? And what has shifted about your purpose, your roles and responsibilities? What's evolving there? Again, when you change, everyone around you has to change or go away. So when your reality shifts, your path shifts. When your path shifts, your reality shifts. That's how that works. They're connected. But here with a square, there's a test to grow out of comfort zone into new territory, like I say all the time. And it's also a 90-degree angle that helps us strengthen and fortify and stabilize something as well as get to a new level. So if you don't let the fixed energy of apathy and depression kind of thing, giving up before you even try, that's not a good way to use this energy because it's going to make it heavier. It's going to make it harder to navigate. So that prayer day is about your reality, making the necessary adjustments so that your path can unfold with ease and grace. If you want to ask Saturn, what are the proper steps you need to take or what has to change in your reality so that your path can go in the direction you want it to go? What's that all about? Let's do some prayer work around that. And know that Saturn in Aquarius squaring off with North Node in Taurus, April 25th of 2022, is prior to 1 year later. So if we pass that test, basically, if we make the necessary changes and choices that we need to make in April of 22, come April of 23, April 14th to be exact, 2023, Saturn will have moved into Pisces and it will link up with North Node in Taurus. Now we're back to how to make that Jupiter dream real, basically a year from spring, a year from April. So that's not as long as it sounds, y'all. Let me just tell you. It could take you a whole year to carry out Saturn's orders, right? To get yourself in a position to then take that path in the right direction of your dream and vision, right? But just saying, I know that everyone's not a planner or a tracker like me, but these things are jumping out and I'm marking the calendar and I will be talking to my ancestors and angels and animal spirit guides on those days to ensure that at least I'm open to the higher possibilities, that I'm willing to shift what is presented to me to be shifted, and I'm not going to be resistant to that, right? So that's April. Then we jump to June. June 16th, Venus is going to initiate a new cycle with North Node at 22 Taurus. So this is a very big deal because this is our values and priorities lining up with the life path and direction in Taurus, which means Uranus isn't too far away, y'all. So that means there probably is some energy for change going on. Venus has made it through her Capricorn by June. She's all the way through Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries to Taurus by June. So she will have made quite a journey post-retrograde to get here. But that North Node is the rare piece, okay? And Venus is in a huge cycle. So this cycle is June to March of 2023, 9 months with Venus. So that's a nice little chunk of time that's going to have its midpoint November 2nd. And you know what I say about midpoints. It's the best course correcting time. It's time to check in. In Venus's case, it would be your values and priorities, your relationships and finances, and what direction you're going in your Taurus department. So again, for me, I can use as an example, I have the 6th house Taurus. So that's my daily routine, my health and well-being, my physical body and ability to integrate pleasure on a daily basis. Okay. So I'm already starting new workout and diets and stuff like that over here, doing new things in the mountain. I got new requirements for my nutrition and everything else. So that is a powerful cycle that's going to run its course by next spring, where we should be able to track some serious results, again, around your relationships and finances, values and priorities evolving in a supportive way for your Taurus department to have this beautiful infusion from the North Node, because that's once in 20 years where you get to set a new path or direction in your Taurus department. That's pretty big. That's June 16th is the new beginning. So I'll do prayers on that day for Venus and do some honoring. There's probably some good extra juju around that date, I'm sure. We're approaching summer solstice, I know. So that's big off the top. Then we have the Gate of Power, the Leo Gate of Power will be happening. And August 1st, Mars in the sky will link up with North Node. And August 3rd, so only 2 days apart, which means all three are meeting together at 18 degrees Taurus. That is Mars, who you are and what you want, and your sacred masculine, the part of you that negotiates on your own behalf, gets your ideas in the world, and holds good boundaries. And Uranus, the awakener, the liberator, the change agent. We must do our choices and actions, which is Mars in a new way, and make some new choices and go in a new direction where our path is concerned as well. Or at least, in that Taurus department, there is some huge renewal and radical change going on by August. So again, prayer days, August 1st for Mars, August 3rd for Uranus. These are really deep because you're opening yourself up to some change of your own choosing. Again, I would just say ask for ease and grace. Mars and Uranus aren't always the easiest to play with. And finally, all the way, it won't be 22, it'll be June 1st, 2023, when Jupiter hits the North Node. And then I really see that full circle coming to completion with launching the new truth and story, let's say. Well, I think it's going to happen anyway by the end of 2023 because of the Venus cycle too. But you add Jupiter, those are the two benefactors. They're going to be wrapping some things up and initiating some things come summer and fall of 2023. So again, this is all preparations. If we can restructure our reality in a positive way and get some things out of the way that don't matter anymore, if we can reset our values and priorities and make some new choices and decisions and allow for some change or some innovation or some unusual ways of going at the same old problems, let's use our imagination, y'all. Let's use our invisible team. Invite them to help. They will not impose, but they will absolutely come if you call. So I'm big on that. You got to know. So the things to call them for, let's talk about this. So remember I said we have to do the clearing in order to do the new beginning here. And it is all about the new beginning. So let's start with the clearing in order to get that new beginning off the ground. So when you come upon it, and maybe I can pull up these exact dates for you. Okay. So if you want to mark your calendars, our first Taurus full moon lunar eclipse was November 19th of 2021. Then we have the Taurus solar eclipse, April 30th, 2022. Scorpio lunar eclipse, May 16th, 2 weeks apart. Then we go to the fall and we have a solar eclipse, October 25th, and a lunar eclipse, November 8th. Then in 23, we have a lunar eclipse, May 5th of 2023. And another lunar eclipse, October 28th of 2023. And that should be the last one in the series. It is. So our dates for eclipses, and then, this depends on your time zone and stuff too. So it could be a day or two off by the date. But October 28th and May 5th of 2023. In 2022, we have 4 of them. April 30th, May 16th, October 25th, and November 8th. And that first one in 2021, November 19th. Okay, so that's 7 total. So usually the way I look at this is I count them out. We're going to have a total of 5 lunar eclipses and 2 solar eclipses. So that gives it a lot more energy for endings, closure, completion, basically from 2002 to 2005 all the way to now. That's the cycle completing. That's the clearing that has to happen with whatever triggers and extra things that happened in the middle at 2012 to 14, that's a big deal, you know? When we're focused on a full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio, we're really doing some deep cleansing and clearing. And we got 2 of those to do in this season, in this whole eclipse season, as it were. First of all, we are absolutely getting more comfortable with death and acquiring and letting go and how that all works. Secrets and limitations, obsession, all kinds of the Pluto stuff, the darkness in our subconscious is coming up to be revealed and released. So again, depending on your comfort with shadow work, depending on how often you do it, I have always said regular shadow work is really important no matter how often you choose to do it. So you could do it once a year, but do it and do it every year at the same time. If you can figure out how to do more than that, then you do more because the shadow work is, there's always work to be done there. It also brings up intense emotions. We start identifying blockages of all kinds. Illusions get harder to carry. It's extreme power, or we'll look at, self-empowerment versus power over others. We don't want to do that. We want to be self-empowered or be a clean channel for power to move through. It's our relationship with power and death and sex and money and taxes and resources, Earth's resources. I mean, it's deep. It's the deepest stuff we deal with, but it's also all part of being here. So you can't avoid it. It's silly to try to avoid it. We can release deep emotional blocks with these, like permanent big cycle blocks, things from childhood, things from other lifetimes even. Clearing and preparation in order to build and grow the garden, right? So Scorpio's where we clear and release, especially if it's a full moon lunar eclipse. And it's all in preparation for that Taurus new moon solar eclipse to kick off a new beginning, right? But it looks like we've got a lot more cleanup to do than new beginning stuff. All good, just a matter of the energies and how they shook out this go round. One of the things I always like to bring up when we're talking about Scorpio energy of any kind is the Scorpion, Eagle, and Phoenix, right? We have levels to our Scorpio. The Scorpion is quick. It stings others without feeling remorse and just it's self-preservation at all costs, right? Eagle rises above things, can be very observant and useful, but it's also predatory, also very good at self-preservation. At the same time, it can get that higher perspective. But the utter transformation that Scorpio really represents comes through the Phoenix. That's the highest form, the connection to the mysteries of life and rebirth. And also, this is how we transcend or transform any of that toxicity or darkness and things that are coming up to be purged, right? We want to transform and transcend. So we invoke the Phoenix for that. This is also where our survivor archetype gets triggered in a lot of ways. And I've told people this for years because I started out just like that. I'm a survivor. I have survived so much. I'm a survivor. Well, guess what you're telling the universe every time you say that with that intense emotion behind it? You're telling the universe you like to survive things. So the universe is going to keep throwing you shit to survive. That's not what we really want when we're talking about that. So let's do a little clearing there. Let's recognize that, yes, we are infinitely powerful behind the transformations that we have lived through and gotten to the other side of and survived. But we don't want to live in that survivor archetype too long. It's good. It serves you in the moment. It serves you when you are immediately just surviving something. But to hang on to that 10 and 20 years after the threat is gone is to invite that kind of energy into your life over and over. So any Scorpio moon is going to help you transform and purify. And you always want to do some kind of special little nod to releasing the need to control. Because between Virgo and Scorpio, these are the two control freaks of the zodiac. And we all got it somewhere where we can be triggered into wanting to control the uncontrollable. So here's where we can do some real release on that. The toxic mimics come up when Scorpio is in a full moon or lunar eclipse mode, because that's where we're at. We're cleaning out what is rank and decayed and can no longer has any kind of life in it that can be useful. We want to start all over from there. So people ask me, what is a toxic mimic? Pornography is a toxic mimic of sacred sexuality. Gangs are a toxic mimic of community. There are things out there that mimic what we're hungry for. And when we're already depleted or dysfunctional, then we lunge at them thinking they're going to satisfy, and they really don't. So this idea of connecting to your own true power and knowing your mission is also really important. So there might be some clearing that has to happen in order for your mission to unfold properly. We also go deep to reclaim parts of self that were buried for survival and allow them to come up for new life. Then we needed to protect them. There was a time when we needed to put aspects of self aside to function properly. But there's also a time to bring them back out because they're part of your soul, and a need for expression is important. Scorpio is always the deepest dedication possible. Like, it's military discipline. Once we decide in our Scorpio department that this is what we're doing, there's really no stopping us. And so very often people with this energy really strong don't talk about it. They just do it. There's no talking. And so we need to adopt a little bit of that too, where we keep some of the good stuff a little close to the vest because everybody's not ready for all that. And then checking in with yourself. Are you creating or recreating? Do you have faith in your connection to your own power to create, or do you play victim and give your power away to others, to institutions, to anything outside yourself is giving away your power? That is the biggest clearing, is going to be in our fears, our phobias, our denials, all the things we hide from ourselves. But the beauty of the one new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio that we will get is that, well, let's put it this way. I have another Kellyism. Once you can face it, once you can see it, then you can own it. Once you can own it, then you can change it. But if you can't face it and you can't own it, you cannot change it. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. So this is going to allow us to basically turn our wounds into wisdom, turn our fears into power and strength and shields to protect ourselves, to shift that negative into a positive is what we do. We shapeshift. With a Scorpio new moon, we get to birth something completely new, or conceive something new, I should say. I've always made the distinction that Scorpio is the conception point, whereas Aries is the new baby spark of life point. It's different. Conception happens in the darkness. Seeds germinate in the darkness. So we need to kind of go down to come back up at certain points. And there's so many folks that just don't like to deal with the Scorpio department. And that just makes the pile up harder to deal with later. We want to look at the ways we lie to ourselves, consciously or not. Again, with being integrity, when Scorpio's kicking, integrity is the only way to go, or you're going to get blasted. We always want to give shadow something to do. Again, if you pay attention to your shadow, if you check in periodically, it causes less trouble. We can definitely transmute the poisons when that energy is kicking. A Scorpio new moon solar eclipse will be very powerful reset. Pain is often a communicator. Really important to remember, because think how much we try to avoid pain, but sometimes it's better to push through it and get to the other side healthy and whole than to break down and take any shortcuts that could kill you. You always have a choice, and all choices have consequences. We don't want to make them good, bad, right, or wrong. We just know if we make this choice, this is what's going to happen. Neutrality, really important. It's time to dig deeper, investigate yourself. Who are you really? Who do you think you are? Who do you present to the world? How does all that work? When you have experienced trauma, survival takes over, and a part of your vital life force can get lost. On the Scorpio new moon, we get to bring it back. So like I was saying earlier with the full moon in Scorpio, when we clear that, when we release that, we recognize that we made a sacrifice long ago, let's say back in 2002 to 5, it's a lot because, Pluto rules Scorpio, and Pluto demands a sacrifice. We have to give up something to have something else. That actually is a natural law. It's not really a bad thing or a big deal. It's how things are done. Once you do all the dark stripping work, you're not done until you ascend back into the light. Okay, that's an old Kelly note. That's so funny. Because I have been bringing this up because of the new Venus cycle. and saying that there are so many people in the world that will help you walk through the dark night of the soul all day long. I could line up 10 people I know right now to help you with that. But where are the folks that want to help you rebuild after you've survived that, after you've gone through that and come back into the light? So in the Venus cycle, we do release work, but we also do 9 months of reclamation so that we are consciously bringing in good stuff to replace what all that space and energy and time and whatnot that we opened up. So that's why our biggest focus should be in the Taurus department. We know the Scorpio department is going to help us let go. That always works in Scorpio department. But it's also resetting our connection to our own power. So now, what are we going to channel that power into? Okay? So you have to revision, revise, redream your definitions of wealth and security. You have to recognize that gardens produce food and flowers, which means beauty and substance is required for humans to thrive. How can we set our lives up to do that? Especially if we've been blessed to break the realign in the work and home departments, right? Where we can actually put our priorities first and still get our work done. You know, we can still take care of things that are really important to us first and foremost and still get our work done and contribute to something else. Quality versus quantity is going to come up in this whole North Node cycle, 18 months of process and eclipses and change and break the realigns that we're going to go through. What do you cultivate? What do you nourish and put your attention on? Dedicate your time and efforts and energies to? What are you cultivating, especially post 2020, 2021 with COVID? We are going to go forward and cultivate what? What kind of connection? What kind of day-to-day existence can we create out of all that madness? How can you balance your desire nature, desire for yourself and the things that you need to provide for yourself, and being able to serve and contribute to a larger community of some sort? We always say that the secret to confidence is being prepared, and Taurus energy loves to prepare. It loves to be clear about what it's building and how it's doing it and where these, resources and support and energy are going to come from. Finding value in your gifts is really important. You need to be able to value what you're creating, your creations. What are they? If we do the work and invest, we will absolutely have a return. That's what Taurus promises us. But we have to clearly define what is success to you, what is comfort, what is luxury. Are they necessary? I think Taurus, as much as they do love luxury and nice things, and beauty is actually at the root of that. The essence of it is beauty and security. That's at the root. And when we take away all the extra stuff, we get down to the basics, then we know that food, sex, and money become the ultimate priorities for Taurus energy. Making what you value tangible, building something that you can enjoy and share with others is really important and useful. This is our physical, material security that we're resetting. How can you be more sovereign? How can you be more independent? How can you be more stable, right? If you're reliant on the social collective world, it's very unstable right now. So it would be better for you to be setting up structures and parameters or protocols or practices, whatever you want to call it, that serve you and your immediate needs to function, which is food and shelter. It's really important. We have to dig into what we want versus what we need. Absolutely. Taurus, Scorpio, whole polarity really helps us work that out. Taurus is all about the earthy side, the material world. Whereas, like I said, the seeds germinate in the darkness with Scorpio. Scorpio is more about the power and conception. If the Taurus side of you can give it a structure, then it's all the better. That's what we do with earth and water. If we give water, which is our flow, our creative flow, our energetic flow, our cash flow, if we give those good structures, they can flow properly. And if we don't, then water's all over the place, and that can be really destructive, right? So we'll be dialing in some of that over the next year and a half. Access and activate the power of your own sexuality, if that is up for you. If you would like to substitute sexuality for creativity, you can do that. But they're both up. However you express that deeper part of yourself, how you bring a life or a concept into form, right? That is your body, your home, any of your containers. that express who you are on the deepest level, they're getting an upgrade too. All of your creative babies, all of the gardeners and all of the farmers are going to have a really interesting time of it because the world is in such a crazy place. But again, whatever you cultivate is what grows. Whatever you focus on and give your attention to, that's what's going to grow. So be mindful. Venus rules Taurus, Pluto rules Scorpio. So if we look at those two, then we know we got some intensity around our personal needs and security. But that's what's getting a reset. So we want to get in tune with nature's rhythm and cycles. You know, even you, your goals, your creative projects, all the things that you want to bring into being are conceived and nourished and developed under these energies in a really beautiful way that you can co-create with, using all your available resources. There's no waste with these two. We do not believe in waste in the Taurus Scorpio department. Everything can be used for something else. Everything can be recycled and repurposed another way. So what needs support and tending in order to grow? What's blocking your evolution? You know, whether it's your creative babies or just yourself. These are all the kind of Taurus Scorpio things that come up. I think what I will do is I will include the lunar tools that I usually give out as bonus material, but they have the issues, areas of life, and questions to contemplate, along with some breath work and some basic rituals to ground your intent for Taurus and Scorpio. New moon and full moon will have different focuses. They might have the same issues, but what happens in the houses and the questions to contemplate are usually different. And that will give you some extra things to get into and help you with like journal prompts and where your focus should be and what are you releasing or reclaiming, as the case may be. You know, again, eclipses bring change. So you just want to recognize that a lot of the big change is happening. It's much more concentrated in our Taurus department than our Scorpio, but the Scorpio energy is still very important to bring it all together in the end. So I'll make sure those are included as a little bonus material for you to go through on your own in your own journals and notes. And if you can track back to these years of 2012 to 14, 02 to 05, or 93 to 95, you might start to pick up on the thread of what you acquired and what you released, and what did you build and what did you destroy, what did you let go of and say, this is done, I'm going to be done with this. You know, that is these two's energy. We create and then we allow it its lifespan and it dies and we create again. And we are creators. That is what we are here to do. Steward the earth and be very creative beings with great imaginations that can be used for the good of the planet. So I think that is more than enough to get the conversation going anyway. You all are welcome to leave comments or ask questions, or definitely use this alongside the weekly forecast to assist in the day-to-day energies. But otherwise, know that this year and a half is really dedicated to cultivating life, to renewing your life force energy, to renewing the beauty in your life, in your being, in your environment, in the close areas that you have to navigate on a regular basis. We are getting an upgrade. One of the biggest things that I say about Uranus being in Taurus is that the bigger awakening, the once in 84 years awakening that Uranus is bringing in Taurus, does have a lot to do with money and resources in the social collective realm. But for us personally, it can liberate us from old confines of self-expression, of old unworthiness that no longer applies. And maybe we're hanging on to it out of habit rather than truth, right? So being able to just ask the questions, to just meditate on what these energies mean or what they bring up. You know, Earth's vibratory frequency has more than doubled, you know, just since 2012 is when it started coming up and being talked about a lot. So if that's the case, and we are still made in the image of our creator here, then we need to rewire our physicality in a way that allows for this higher frequency to be ease and grace rather than static on the line, making us crazy, right? It can do either one. So we have to ground ourselves so that these higher frequencies, more light, more electricity can move through our body without blowing our circuits. We need to lighten up in a lot of ways. We have to reset the food culture. That's the biggest piece that is probably going to have a lot of attention on our soil, our seeds, our earthly garden that provides life. And if we keep digging in her and don't allow her proper cycles to renew herself and renew that life, then we are going to starve. So let's not do it that way. We have consciousness, we have technology, we have tools, we have ways to do this better. And it starts with the humans. It starts with us getting ourselves together so that we can make better choices and decisions around the world. So do your best. Remember that we're shifting from Gemini Sag eclipses. We've just gone through this awakening of consciousness. And when you're in it, it's hard to know what's what. But now that we're outside of that and we've moved into Taurus Scorpio, it is going to become more about embodiment, but you're also going to get more clarity about your own consciousness and what you believe to be true or possible, because that's what your values are going to be based on. That's what your choices of what you're going to build and cultivate going forward are going to be based on. So it's important for you to acknowledge those initial changes, change your mind and your ass will follow. Okay. Old school. It's true. If we can change our thinking and choices and decisions, then the outcome is obviously going to be different. All these cycles repeat over and over throughout our lives. But what changes is the sky pattern. You evolve and change. The people you're around evolve and change. And we can respond in different ways. So even though the last time we had Taurus Scorpio eclipses was 2012 to 2014, and the full cycle goes back to 02 to 05, we are initiating a completely new 10 and 20 year cycle here and now during 22 and 23. So this is a powerful reset for your Taurus Scorpio departments that's going to force your Leo Aquarius departments to grow and change. It's all natural. It's okay. It's happened before. You survived it. You go survive it again. It's all good. But a little consciousness goes a long way. So I'm happy to help in that department. I love putting you on blast and giving you good prayer days and knowing when the energies are going to be pretty intense, which is going to be a lot of this because it gets real in Taurus Scorpio. This is the things we really care about and that really matter. And people take that stuff personal. So we just all have to walk with a little neutrality and conscious awareness. And we'll do this a little better going forward. So reach out if you need to. Again, I hope this was helpful and useful and relevant. This is Kelly Beard of Karmic Tools signing off.